Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here with another tea. There's always more teas to explore because there's always a new tea that you've never tasted before. And then again, there's always teas. Each season can bring about a little bit of different character in tea. So that means the task of tasting and exploring teas is never ending. I'm getting at a tea here. We're going to talk about it in just a moment. But this is a Puer, and I want to have enough to get a good, fair tasting of this. So that's like a good portion there. It's not going to, as it sits right there, because a Puer it can be pressed into a cake. It doesn't at this point fill that bottom inch to inch and a half bottom diameter of my Gaiwan, but I believe it will. So I'm going to add enough water here so that a little bit will sit just above the rim of the lid. This water's been brought to boil. It's been cooling for about a minute, so it's got plenty of heat to it. Let me get this water out of the way. And I'm going to do something a little bit differently. Now, generally, I'll go ahead and say Puers require shorter steepings, and depending on the kind of Puer, you may even want to just rinse it. Pour a little hot water, just enough to kind of cover it, and pour that off so that it gives a rinse. That will loosen it up. That will allow subsequent steepings to come out a little more quickly and a little more evenly. I'm going to break that rule this time because I just want to let this tea sit as it is and just see what it does when it does what it does. While it's sitting there, I'm going to go ahead and introduce this tea. This is from the CamelliaSinensis, the Maison de Thé CamelliaSinensis. They have locations in Montreal and Quebec. This is their Puer1999OldTrea. You can get 25 grams for $8.25 US dollar. And this is a Shu or Shou Puer. Shu being, I often hear Shu being the more Mandarin pronunciation, but I also hear Shou pronounced every once in a while. So that's the tea. Again, this is a Puer which can be aged. That's why you see the 1999 there. And depending on the conditions in which it's aged, just like a cellar, cellars can be different versus depending on whether it's in a bottle or a cask or how wines are aged. They're different. The storage aging conditions of Puer can have an effect. What I'm going to do here is kind of get out some of this and talk about, as I usually do, the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor of the tea. Starting off here with the dry. Now, I'm not getting a whole lot of aroma coming off this, so I'm going to cheat just a little bit, put it in my hands, breathe some warm air, and that tends to waken up, release just a little bit of the fragrance molecules. When that happens, I get some of those kind of characteristic aged Puer type of smells. Some of them are more damp, wet wood, soggy basement kind of smells. Others are more old, dry wood, old, like an old 200-year-old, 100-year-old warehouse that's got concrete, stone floors, brick walls, old, rough-hewn lumber, wood, and the rafters, that kind of stuff. So it's old, dry wood. So it's not as much of the musty type of smell, but still nice, rich age type. Maybe even, I'm even thinking of old barns that I've been in that were made from cedar, and you get that kind of dried cedar plank, cedar wood type smell, and that's coming off here as well. Looking at the dry leaf, fairly densely packed. I should mention that first. Secondly, it's hard to see. I mean, I know these are just pieces, but it's going to, at this point, I don't see indication. I see larger leaves, and that's broken out into portions. So I don't see indications of tips or needles. I don't necessarily see an indication that these were whole leaves. All of them, no matter where they are, no matter which angle you look, it looks to be broken leaves. Now, looking at the top versus the bottom, you know, a puer cake can have different layer sizes of leaves, and that's kind of part of the recipe. The top layer can be, the outer surface can be broader leaves or narrower, finer tips, while the next layer could be the opposite, and so on. But just this flake here, a lot of fairly consistent in size or portions of larger, medium to large leaves. So putting that away, hopefully this has loosened up enough to create enough character. Yeah, that's starting to break up. I can kind of tap it with the top of my lid here, and it's the clump is breaking apart, so it's steeped well enough now. So I'm going to go ahead and pour. Let that sit for just a moment. Give this wet leaf a shot here. See how it smells and how it looks. Now, more intense, like I said, old cedar planks, rough-hewn wood that's 100 years old. Perhaps a little bit of dried mushroom. Think of salted, air-dried, air-cured type of shiitake mushroom, something along those lines. Porcini, maybe, a little bit of dried porcini type. So there's some of those rich smells coming out. It's, again, not necessarily damp, soggy. I caught a whiff. Something, perhaps it's just in my mind, but there's a little bit of a kind of a smokehouse, almost like a smokehouse filled with bacon that's aging or something. So there's a bit of a smoky, almost meaty type of smell, cured meat type of smell. So pleasant overall. Go ahead and pull out a few of these leaves that have loosened up. The layers have come apart. It's hard to tell, again, because these are pressed. Right, this looks like a leaf, for example, that is fully intact. It's hard to tell. It's not going to be something I can gently pull apart and open up. But let me see if I can find, again, more pieces that have been pressed and compressed so tightly that they're not going to loosen up very easily. Previous steepings, I did loosen some. I did, steep multiple times so that the leaves did loosen up more, and still, even then, it was hard to find leaves that were fully unfurled, and it was hard to find leaves that were fully intact. So the fact that they don't unfurl easily bodes well, in that it means that they will hopefully relatively gradual in their release of flavor and character. But this is a portion of a leaf quite wide. This was obviously a pretty large leaf there, more than an inch in width. So that gives you an idea that these are large, big, older, more mature leaves. So I'm going to set that aside. Move on now to the liquor. I'm going to give that a swirl. Now, some puers can get more towards an inky, dark, purplish type color. This one is more towards a reddish, amber orange, though, that kind of region. Looking into the light, this one's a bit got more clarity to it. Got a bit more visibility. Now I could, steep it even further and probably get something even darker and richer off of that. This one's got more of an orangey type color to it. I was recently looking and doing a little bit about wine, finding out that your newer red wines often have more of a purplish type color, and those that are aged, if you hold it up to the light in the white background, the edges take on more of an orange type. And I'm wondering if that holds true for puers, but too early for me to say exactly. I'm going to go ahead and give it some taste. Looking down into the cup here, yeah, still good clarity, and fairly nice brightness. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a taste here. Not bad for an initial steeping. I often would expect this to waken up more in subsequent second, third, fourth steepings. Aftertaste is starting to build up some. There is a sweetness that really that's starting to rise up in the back of my mouth. Texture fairly smooth. It's not, at this point, it's not intense, but it's not minerally either. So it's got a faint but fairly smooth texture here. Tastes, again, it's got an age to it. It's got a little bit of there's almost a tinge of a cocoa powder that I'm picking up at this point. To be honest, I'll go ahead and say, off-camera tastings was where I really found out more. This one steeping of this, especially with Puers, the test comes over multiple tastings. And with that, off-camera, I found the aftertaste was pretty intense, pretty strong, fairly good sweetness, fairly extended in its sweetness and its impact. Also, it started off in the initial, say, 3 to 4 steeps, rich, near almost creamy type smoothness. In relation to other Puers, rich, a nice heavy texture to it. Also, but overall, I should say, in those off-camera tastings, and somewhat what I'm finding here, not a lot of complexity in the aroma and the taste. I did get, like I said, we got a little bit of cocoa powder here. Subsequent steepings off-camera, I did pick up some kind of ginseng type characteristics there. But one of the keys that many people look for in Puers is the different layers of taste that come about as you taste through multiple steepings. This one, I generally found less of those layers compared to other teas that have had some age put on them like this. Let me check my notes, see if there's anything else that I did not mention yet. Again, well, that ginseng, I should note, can come out more when the tea is a little bit cooler. Yeah. The other thing that I did note was in subsequent steepings of this one, off camera again, it was the later steepings, the texture dropped off a little faster than some of the others that I've tasted and became more of a kind of a minerally and less smooth texture. So that texture that's there tended to taper off faster than some others that I've tasted. So looking overall, that means I would give this tea a 90. Some nice components to it, some things that I thought could have been there, maybe even should have been there. So come back to Walker Tea Review to explore, again, the ever-changing world of tea.